Equity financing ultimately mirrors how Americans think about possibility. It reflects a willingness to trade certainty for a chance at something larger, even when the outcome is unclear. This mindset is deeply rooted in cultural narratives about growth, reinvention, and upward movement. Equity fits naturally into a society that celebrates future potential, sometimes more than present reality. At the same time, equity exposes the emotional cost of that belief. Living with open-ended outcomes requires resilience that is rarely discussed. People learn to delay closure, to exist without clear markers of success or failure. Over time, this can reshape how they relate to money itself. Money becomes less about immediate comfort and more about symbolic progress. The danger is that present well-being can be quietly sacrificed for a future that remains abstract. Equity financing also influences how people measure success. Traditional income provides frequent feedback. Equity does not. Without regular signals, people often borrow confidence from external validation. Headlines, valuations, rumors, and peer comparisons begin to fill the gap. This can distort self-perception, making people feel ahead or behind based on narratives rather than lived stability. The emotional swings that follow are not random. They are the result of humans trying to anchor themselves in uncertain systems. There is a subtle identity shift that happens with equity. Ownership blurs the line between who someone is and what they are building. Work becomes personal in a deeper way. This can create purpose and motivation, but it can also make setbacks feel existential. When outcomes are delayed, people may struggle to separate temporary uncertainty from permanent failure. This is one of the quiet psychological burdens of equity that rarely appears in success stories. Equity financing also highlights who gets to wait. Time is a resource, and not everyone has equal access to it. The ability to hold equity without immediate payoff often depends on factors outside individual control. Family support, health, location, and past opportunities all influence how long someone can stay in the game. These realities shape outcomes just as much as effort or insight, even if they are rarely acknowledged. From a distance, equity systems can look clean and logical. In practice, they operate inside human lives filled with pressure, hope, fear, and adaptation. People adjust their expectations, redefine goals, and rewrite personal narratives as time passes. Some grow more patient, others become more cautious. Some walk away wiser. Others stay longer than planned, because leaving feels harder than continuing. In the end, equity financing is not just about capital flowing into businesses. It is about belief flowing through people. Belief in growth. Belief in shared futures. Belief that uncertainty can eventually turn into meaning. Whether that belief is rewarded or not, it shapes behavior long before any outcome is known. Understanding equity financing through this lens helps explain why it remains powerful, controversial, and deeply human. It is not simply a financial structure. It is a reflection of how people cope with uncertainty, imagine better futures, and make peace with outcomes they cannot fully control. Equity financing also quietly shapes how people talk about money, often without realizing it. When ownership is involved, conversations become less concrete and more symbolic. Words like potential, vision, and upside start to replace numbers and timelines. This language isn't accidental. It helps people emotionally tolerate uncertainty. When outcomes can't be measured yet, meaning has to be created another way. In American workplaces, equity has become a substitute for promises that used to come from stability. Long-term employment, pensions, and predictable career ladders have faded for many. Equity steps in to fill the emotional gap. It offers a story about shared success in a system that no longer guarantees it. For some, that story is empowering. For others, it feels like optimism replacing security. This is where power dynamics quietly enter the picture. Not everyone experiences equity the same way. Someone with savings, support, or alternative options can wait more comfortably than someone living paycheck to paycheck. The same equity offer can feel exciting to one person and risky to another, even if the terms are identical. These differences shape behavior, loyalty, and stress levels inside organizations, often without being openly acknowledged. Equity financing also reveals how Americans interpret responsibility. Ownership creates a sense of moral weight. When things go well, success feels earned. When things go poorly, failure feels personal, even when factors were outside anyone's control. This internalization can be motivating, but it can also lead to burnout. People begin to carry outcomes as reflections of their worth, not just their work. Over time, this emotional load influences decisions. People may avoid necessary risks to protect what they already have, or they may double down on risky paths to justify past sacrifices. Psychologists call this escalation of commitment. But in everyday life, it feels like staying loyal to a story you've already invested in. Equity makes those stories harder to walk away from, because leaving can feel like admitting the story was wrong. There is also a quiet tension between patience and urgency. Equity rewards long-term thinking, but daily life demands short-term survival. Bills arrive on schedule. Stress does not wait for exits. This creates a constant negotiation between present needs and future hope. How people manage that tension often has less to do with discipline and more to do with emotional bandwidth. In public conversations, equity is often framed as opportunity. Privately, it is often experienced as uncertainty, but are true. The system depends on people being willing to sit in that space between what is and what might be. Those who can tolerate ambiguity tend to stay longer. Those who cannot often exit early, sometimes at emotional or financial costs. Equity financing is not just about sharing upside. It is about sharing risk, time, and emotional exposure. It asks people to believe in futures that do not yet exist, while continuing to function in the present. Understanding this helps explain why equity decisions are rarely purely rational. They are deeply human responses to uncertainty, hope, and the desire for meaning in work and money. Equity financing also reveals how Americans relate to time. In a culture built around speed, equity forces people into a slower emotional rhythm. Value does not show up on a weekly schedule. It accumulates quietly, often invisibly. This mismatch between how long equity takes and how humans prefer to feel rewarded creates constant internal tension. Many people underestimate how emotionally demanding waiting can be. When effort does not immediately translate into visible progress, the brain looks for reassurance elsewhere. Doubt creeps in. Comparisons begin. Someone else seems to be moving faster, earning more, living better. Equity magnifies this effect because the payoff is uncertain and delayed. The mind fills the silence with stories, and those stories are rarely neutral. This is why equity decisions often feel heavier during ordinary moments, not dramatic ones. A slow quarter, a delayed launch, a quiet inbox. These moments do not signal failure, but they feel like it emotionally. Humans struggle with ambiguous feedback. Without clear signals, anxiety steps in to do the interpreting. Equity financing places people in long stretches of ambiguity, and how they cope with that uncertainty shapes their long-term relationship with money. There is also a generational layer to equity behavior. Younger Americans who entered adulthood during economic instability often see equity as a way out of traditional constraints. Home prices feel distant. Stable careers feel uncertain. Equity represents leverage, the idea that ownership might accelerate progress when wages cannot. Older generations may view equity differently, shaped by ERAs where stability felt more attainable through predictable income. These perspectives are not right or wrong. They reflect lived experience. Equity financing also exposes how people think about fairness. When outcomes vary widely, even among similar efforts, the human instinct is to search for explanations. Some credit skill. Others blame the system. Most land somewhere in between. The truth is uncomfortable because it includes randomness. Equity systems reward alignment with the right opportunity at the right time, and that reality challenges the belief that effort alone determines results. Inside companies, equity can motivate or quietly divide. When ownership feels meaningful, people feel invested beyond their job description. When it feels abstract or distant, it becomes symbolic rather than practical. This difference often has less to do with percentages and more to do with trust. People are more patient with uncertainty when they feel informed and respected. When communication breaks down, equity becomes a source of resentment instead of motivation. From the outside, equity success stories can distort expectations. They compress time, skipping years of uncertainty to focus on outcomes. This fuels a cultural optimism that is emotionally compelling but incomplete. The danger is not hope itself. The danger is misunderstanding the emotional cost of holding that hope over long periods without resolution. Equity financing, at its core, asks people to live with unfinished stories. No clear endings, no guaranteed timelines. Just participation in something that may or may not work out. For some, that uncertainty feels energizing. For others, it feels exhausting. Understanding this emotional divide explains why equity is embraced passionately by some and avoided entirely by others, even when the numbers look similar. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into a topic that is talked about nearly enough in the startup world. The hidden psychological side of equity financing. We all hear the success stories, the massive funding rounds, the unicorn valuations. It sounds like a dream, but what really happens to the people involved after the ink dries and the money hits the bank? Let's start with the founder. Getting that first big check feels incredible. It's validation. It's someone believing in your dreams so much they're willing to bet millions on it. You feel like you're on top of the world. But this high can quickly be followed by immense pressure. Suddenly, it's not just your dream anymore. You have a fiduciary duty to investors. Every decision is scrutinized, and the weight of expectation can be crushing. This often leads to what's called founder's paranoia, a constant fear of failure, of letting people down, and of losing control of the company you built from scratch. Your identity becomes completely tied to the company's performance. Now, let's look at the investors. From the outside, they seem to hold all the power, but they're under immense pressure too. They've used their fundus money or their limited partner's money, and they've re-expected to deliver a significant return, often 10x or more. This pressure can make them risk-averse or overly controlling. They might push for growth at all costs, sometimes at the expense of sustainable, long-term health for the company. Their psychology is driven by metrics, milestones, and the constant need to report back to their own stakeholders. This creates a high-stakes environment where patience can run thin. And this is where the relationships get complicated. The founder-investor dynamic starts like a partnership, a honeymoon phase filled with shared vision and excitement. But when the pressure mounts, it can quickly turn adversarial. A missed quarterly target can feel like a personal failure to the founder and a breach of trust to the investor. Communication can break down. What was once a supportive mentorship can feel more like a tense parent-child relationship, filled with judgment and disappointment. The board meetings become dreaded events instead of collaborative sessions. Even the founding team's dynamic changes. Before funding, you're a tight-knit group of pirates taking on the world. After funding, new hires come in, roles become more defined, and the original culture can get that. Early employees who took a chance on the vision with little PE might feel resentful of new, highly paid executives. Brought in by investors, the founder is now caught in the middle, trying to manage old loyalties and new expectations. So, what's the takeaway? Equity financing is a powerful tool, but it's not just a financial transaction. It's a deeply psychological one that reshapes identities, pressures, and relationships. For any founder considering this path, it's crucial to understand these hidden costs. Choose your investors not just for their money, but for their empathy and shared values. And most importantly, protect your own mental health throughout the journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the startup world. See you in the next one. Equity financing sounds like a complicated Wall Street term, but it quietly shapes our daily lives more than most of us realize. It's in the coffee shop on the corner, the app on your phone, and the startup your cousin joined instead of taking a corporate job. At its core, equity financing is about ownership, and ownership taps into something deeply human. People aren't just chasing money. They're chasing control, a sense of belonging, and the hope that today's sacrifice might turn into tomorrow's freedom. For many founders, the decision to give away part of their company is an emotional one, long before it is a mathematical one. We grow up hearing stories about independence and self-made success. So, giving up ownership can feel like losing a piece of your identity. But the reality of building a business often crashes into the reality of limited cash and rising costs. Rent is due. Payroll is due. And growth feels urgent. Equity financing becomes a psychological trade-off between pride and survival. From the investor's side, equity speaks to a different instinct: the desire to participate in a story, Buying a piece of a business feels personal in a way that just lending money doesn't. When people own equity, they feel connected to outcomes they can't fully control. This is why equity investing can feel so exciting and terrifying at the same time. The upside seems limitless, while the downside is quietly understood, but often emotionally minimized. Humans are just wired to focus on hopeful stories and ignore the quiet probabilities. Equity financing also reflects how we think about risk. Many households live with financial fragility, even if they look stable on the surface. In that environment, taking an equity stake feels like a huge leap. There are no guaranteed payments, no fixed timelines, and no clear exits. Yet that very uncertainty is what attracts people who feel boxed in by predictable paychecks and slow progress. Equity becomes a symbol of possibility, the chance that life could turn out differently than expected. But this system rewards patience, and human nature often struggles with waiting. Equity can take years, sometimes decades, to really matter. During that time, emotions fill the void left by uncertainty. Optimism when there's good news, anxiety during periods of silence, and regret when we start comparing ourselves to others. These emotional swings aren't flaws in the system. They are features of human psychology operating inside a financial structure built on delayed gratification. On a broader level, equity financing shapes how power moves through our economy. Ownership determines who benefits most when value is created. Over time, this has influenced wealth, distribution, workplace culture, and even how we define success. For some, equity represents empowerment and shared goals. For others, it highlights exclusion and missed opportunities. Both experiences can exist at the same time, within the same system. In our everyday lives, equity financing is rarely discussed at the dinner table. Yet its effects are everywhere. It influences who takes risks, who plays it safe, and who gets to participate in growth versus simply working for a paycheck. Understanding equity financing isn't just about spreadsheets. It's about understanding how hope, fear, and ambition quietly guide our financial decisions long before the numbers ever appear. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this interesting, be sure to like and subscribe for more content that explores the hidden forces shaping our world. See you next time.